Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have the second of the new Fierce Force figures to take a look at. As yesterday we had reviewed the Dilophosaurus, now we have the only brand new species to be entering the Mattel line with the Fierce Force wave. This is the Chialingosaurus, and this is a super exciting release because I'm pretty sure this is the first time that we've had a figure of this species, or at least as far as what I'm familiar with. I know I certainly do not have another figure of this species in my collection, and I can't recall any other company having one out previously, so that's super awesome. Mattel has done that quite a few times now with figures like this, the Seats, and there's definitely been some really cool species that Mattel has released that I honestly would have never in a million years expected them to. But as far as the box art goes, we have pretty much your standard box art as far as what you get when it comes to a Dino Escape figure. And then if we turn it around, we have kind of a sneak peek of the action feature, as well as the other three figures that are in the wave, which we have reviewed already, each and every one of those in the past. So let's pop this out of its box and take a look at it. And here is our Chialingosaurus, and it is absolutely beautiful, minus the random awkward brown paint there on the legs and kind of lower part of the stomach leading into those front legs. I just don't understand why that's there. I have absolutely no reason to think that anyone at any point in time would have thought that that paintwork would be a good idea. It's just so out of place, and I do appreciate Mattel trying to kind of keep it fresh, keep it a little bit original, but honestly, it's just so strange looking on the figure and so out of place. I feel like the figure as a whole would have definitely been nicer if we had not included that paintwork. I'm also taking notice to the fact that the shoulder spike, well, first of all, isn't exactly in the correct spot, but it's also insanely small, and I don't know why. I recently have seen some images of the upcoming Kentrosaurus, and they had shoulder spikes on that figure, but they're disconnected. You have to put them in when you get the actual figure in hand. This one came with them, and maybe the idea behind making them so small was just because it's a smaller figure, and they didn't want them sticking out of the sides, or something like that of the box. I don't know, but it really makes the figure look very awkward, unless there's been some sort of new discovery I'm totally unfamiliar with, that we now believe that Chialingosaurus had the shoulder spikes down too low and also very awkwardly small, but I don't believe that's the case. But once we move past those, fairly small but kind of obnoxious issues with the figure, it absolutely looks like a beautiful sculpt. So let's go ahead, jump straight to a closer look right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt, you can definitely see that it is an overall beautiful looking head sculpt for the dinosaur. There's lots of really nice detail as far as the skin texture and stuff to be found in the head. Very nice, very small, fine scaling here in the lower part of the face, but as you get to the top of the head, you can see the scale detail becomes a lot larger and really nice and vibrant detail. It absolutely pops on the sculpt quite beautifully. You can also see the nostrils sculpted out here at the tip of the snout. You have a really nice kind of a light yellow for the beak. The beak itself also does include some pretty nice detailing in that area. We do have a yellow eye, but stupidly Mattel gave us the green coloration there for the pupil, and it would have just looked so much better had we given it a black pupil. And I don't know why Mattel is kind of backtracking on this, as they were starting to include black pupils on a lot more figures. But lately, it seems like they're kind of going backwards and starting to include that random coloration, whatever the primary body color is usually, as far as the pupil coloration, and I really don't like that. I feel like the eye would have definitely looked a lot better had we actually had a black pupil. At least on the plus side, the eye seems to be placed pretty nicely, and the eye also is placed quite nicely over here, so that definitely helps to at least add a little bit of an appeal factor to the figure on an otherwise not so great looking eye. As we move back into the neck, you can see that the scale detail actually gets really quite large. Very interesting take as far as what the texturing of this dinosaur would look like, and I actually really do quite like the way the scale detail looks there in the neck. You also start to see some of the kind of spikes and plates and all of that stuff picking up here on the back of our Chialingosaurus. You can see some more of that really nice looking scale detail that almost looks like it's screaming for a dark wash to crawl in and out of those scales. but you can see that that continues to run the course of the back here of the dinosaur. That scale detail up here on the back looks really nice. Again, it kind of gets larger and larger as you get closer to the mid-back area of the dinosaur, but it looks really, really good. You can also see that there is a lot more of that large scaling down here on the side of the dinosaur, but we also have a variation of kind of like a bluish green here for the side of the dinosaur that starts right here. Once we actually get past the neck connect to the body here, you can see that that starts to pick up. And we also have that kind of really weird and out of place brown here that picks up down in the lower part of the dinosaur. You can start to see some like osteoderms and stuff showing up here and there on the dinosaur. We do have, again, the odd sort of shoulder spike here on the side, which is painted with a kind of a yellowish coloration, like a light yellow, similar to the beak, as well as the thagomizers out here at the end of the tail. You can see more really nice scale detail and stuff throughout the course of the leg. We get some much finer scaling down here on the legs compared to what we have on the upper side of the dinosaur. Again, more of those very large bumps, those kind of osteoderms. You have a really nice foot sculpt as well, kind of like some nice scoots down the course of the toes. No nail paint, which is, pretty much the standard at this point. We can see some more beautiful scale detail here in the stomach region of the dinosaur, as well as some more of that brown that kind of stripes into the greenish body color of the dinosaur. You can also pick up on the rib cage a little bit right there. But as you come back up here, you can see it again transition to that kind of like bluish, sort of a greenish color, like a light blue. And then you can see that we have some very nice muscle definition here in the thigh of our dinosaur. Again, the scale detail is super nice looking on this dinosaur. You can see the kneecap here in the front of the leg. As we move down the course of that leg, you can see some nice creasing here in the back of the knee, as well as another really nice foot sculpt here on the rear of the leg. Yet again, unfortunately, no nail paint. As we move back up here, again, the scale detail and stuff continues to look nice, but in a very exciting turn of events, we actually have this bluish coloration running out onto the tail. So we do have some pretty significant paint out here onto the tail, as we have the primary green body color, but we also have that bluish coloration out here before we reach the thagomizers, which are, again, that yellowish coloration. You can see more of the really nice scale detail here on the top of the dinosaur. And if we run along the plates here on the back, they as well sport some fantastic sculpt work, but unfortunately they don't have any other paint coloration as far as the figure goes, other than that kind of main primary green for the body. It would have definitely made the figure look a lot nicer had we had maybe like a brown or just some other color variation on the plates themselves, but they don't look bad. It just, that's a minor nitpick, something that could have helped to make the figure look a little bit nicer. If we take a look over here at the opposing side, again being an articulated figure, you're not really going to see too much difference on this figure compared to the other side that we had just taken a look at. And in fact, the front legs are almost in the same positioning, maybe just slightly different. You can see that the paintwork, though, is very consistent as far as the way it appeared on the previous side. Looks exactly the same over here. Really nice detailing throughout the course of the figure, aside from a few minor areas. The leg sculpt looks fantastic back here, just like it did on the previous side. You can see the right rear leg is also a little bit further forward than the left leg back there. And again, the really nice foot sculpt and everything down here. We have more of that bluish coloration up here. You can see that there's an area of articulation here in the midsection, because that would be our action feature, but you can see as we move it over, the really nice scale detail and stuff continues, so that there's never any type of like a area showing that doesn't have that absolutely gorgeous detailing to the figure. And then we again run out the course of the tail. We can see more of that bluish coloration, that bluish green out here on the tail, which is really nice to see. And then if we take a look here at the underside, we can see that there are some speckles and stuff. It seems like it's kind of like a dark blue or a dark gray speckling that is kind of abundant throughout the course of the figure. Like you can see it in the legs, you can see it up in the plates and stuff like that as well. And there is the Jurassic Facts app code for the figure if you would like to add it to your collection. But you can again see how weird and randomly placed this brown is. Like it just shows up in the chest but ends instantly in the stomach region of the dinosaur. And that's just it. There's just no other brown anywhere else, just this one little area. No idea why they did that, but once we get past that and then the shoulder spike issue, I think the figure as a whole does look really quite nice. And then as far as articulation goes, we can move the head up and down quite nicely. I actually really like the positioning of the head. Like it looks super smooth. There's no awkward look to the neck once you position it upward. They have a really nice curve to the throat. And when it actually is pulled up like that looks really good. I really do quite like that. It also looks good when it goes down, but it doesn't go down all that far. I don't know if we can swivel it. Oh, yeah, we can definitely swivel it, so it can move that way as well. Kind of swivels a little awkwardly, but it does swivel. We do have, of course, articulation in the front leg. They definitely can move out away from the body. We can see that right there in the top of the front leg right there as far as that seam. We do have midsection articulation as well. Again, kind of the action feature. We have articulation in the leg and then out away from the body, even though it just tried to take off on me. And then we do have articulation in the tail, but again, the action feature is actually this here. We operate the front of the body, which causes that tail sort of to move. Honestly, it doesn't move all that well. You can see it's not really, attacking all that well. Let's see what happens when we move the tail here, if I can find my arm to get in a good spot. So the front part of the body definitely moves a little better, almost kind of insinuating like these little tiny shoulder spikes are the attack part of this dinosaur. So really, it's kind of like a double whammy. You can attack with the front half of the dinosaur, or you can, of course, attack with the thagomizers, but the thagomizers aren't really working that well. I feel like the tail should definitely be able to articulate a little nicer. So it doesn't work perfect, but it does do what it's supposed to, just not as nicely, I would say, as some of the previous Mattel figures. As far as a size goes, for a length, you are looking at about, I would say, right around the 8-inch range, maybe closing in on 8 1/4, or about 20 and a half centimeters, somewhere around there. For a height to the top of the plates here on the back, you're looking at about 3 1/4 inches, or around 8 1/2 centimeters, maybe around 8 centimeters, or a little tiny bit over. For a size comparison, here is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Chialingosaurus, and Robert Muldoon, who currently is taking the thagomizers, it appears, in the worst possible spot, but you can definitely get an idea as far as the size of the figure goes in comparison to these guys right here. It's definitely one of the smaller figures in the line, fitting nicely in the same size range as the kind of Attack Pack, Wild Pack style figures, but that's pretty much been the same type of an issue with the, Fierce Force or Savage Strike figures. Throughout the course of this line, they've always followed that same size range, just with, action features as opposed to just articulation like we usually get on Wild Packs and Attack Packs. But even with the smaller size, it is still a fantastic looking sculpt and sort of an okay looking paint job, but definitely a nice figure in the size department as well. Nothing too big, but nothing too small. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous Dino Escape Fierce Force Chialingosaurus is kind of a mixed bag, I would say. It's an absolutely fantastic sculpt aside from the shoulder spikes. Like, I think the shoulder spikes just look bad on the figure. Unless there was some sort of weird discovery that found that the shoulder spikes were, first of all, not even in the correct spot, but also smaller than they should be, which I don't think there was, then, great, I guess they capitalized on that, but I don't think that it actually has happened. I feel like the shoulder spike should have definitely been, first of all, in a different spot, and secondly, a lot larger than what we see here on this figure. So the shoulder spike issue is pretty bad, and I actually would have preferred that the figure just did not even have that at all, because it just looks awkward. But I also am not a big fan of the paintwork of the figure. The sculpt, other than the shoulder spike area, is absolutely gorgeous. A really beautifully sculpted figure with absolutely awesome detail that is very vibrant, just pops really nicely throughout the course of the figure, and there is really nice detail in every area of the Chialingosaurus. Like, there is just zero laziness when it comes to the actual detailing outside of the shoulder spike area. But the paintwork looks really nice aside from the brown. Like, I love the kind of light blue and the green tones of color that they've used for the majority of the figure. I do like the kind of yellowish, like light yellow colors for the thagomizers, the beak and stuff like that. But the brown is so misplaced and awkward looking. It just really does not look like it belongs, and I do appreciate Mattel trying to get creative and give us something that looks kind of neat as far as the paint application goes, because, the Mattel line has so many figures into this that it's probably kind of hard at times to come up with new and interesting paint schemes, but I feel like this is probably one of the ugliest looking paint schemes that we've had on any figure throughout the entire Mattel Jurassic World line. I will definitely keep my fingers crossed we get another version of this at some point with a more superior paint scheme, because this one definitely doesn't do it for me. If we again ditch the brown, I feel like it would have been pretty nice, nothing over the top. Maybe some paint up on the plates and some toenail paint would have really helped the figure a lot, and just ditched the brown there on the legs. But it is what it is, I guess. The figure still is a brand new species to my collection. It also sports some fantastic articulation as well as a kind of fun action feature. So it's still a really good figure. It's still a win if you ask me, especially just being a species I have never had the opportunity to enter into my collection before. But there are certainly some things that could have been improved upon on the figure. That being said, still without question worth a purchase, so I will include a link in the description to Amazon where I was able to order mine, so hopefully it's still in stock there. Otherwise, it should start to show up in store hopefully sometime soon. One way or another, I definitely recommend picking it up, so make sure you do in fact do that if you can find it, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.